to talk about your unique differentiators and the competition. Okay? I'd like to start off with a definition here. Differentiators, the unique features or benefits of a product or service, or aspects of a brand that set it apart from competing products or brands. Anybody want to dispute that, or any thoughts about that? You know, when you think, you know, we talk about, one of the key things we talk in marketing is, or if you were going to an investor and you have a product or service, the investor typically will say, all right, how are you differentiated with respect to the competition? What makes you different? Why should customers buy your product over brand B? So I just wanted, there's a couple of things that I thought were cool about this definition that I highlighted. Features, benefits, aspects of a brand that set it apart. Okay? And these are things that you need to think about when you are trying to develop your competitive advantage. Because your competitive advantage usually, and it's funny, Kimberly, we were talking about, you asked about a bad value proposition or your elevator pitch, where you talk about a value proposition. We help companies do X, okay? And then probably, and the person you're speaking to will probably say, okay, great, that's good, thank you. So, but I see brand Y, they can help me do X too. So the question I have is, why should I go with you over brand Y? You have to have an answer for that. You'd be surprised how many companies don't have answers to that. Or what I would say, the answers they have are not very well thought out. I'll tell a quick anecdote. I asked, this was years ago, I was interviewing for a job, and this was the VP of sales for a technology product. It doesn't matter what it was, but one of the questions that I asked him was, you know, you figure the VP of sales and you're signing up for a sales position, why do customers buy your product over the competition? And remember, this is the VP of sales I'm speaking to. His response to me was, we're more focused on the customer. And I thought, how many companies do you know that say they're not focused on the customer? All I said was that was not, he really didn't know what differentiated him from the competition. And that's the case for a lot of companies. So that's why we're going to cover this. It's an important concept. And I have a question. And I did this. Why should prospective customers buy from you versus the competition? Something to think about as we go through this. Some things that you know, are important in terms of differentiation factors. There's a lot of things that, some of them are intuitive, some of them not so intuitive, and that can differentiate you from what may seem to someone from the outside. They're trying to determine which is better for them. So, first one is your features. You may have what we call bigger, better, faster. Your product is bigger, it is better, it's faster, it does something better than the competition. And you're able to prove that, either through customer testimonials, or you've done some experiments where you've proven that our product or service compared to brand B is better. And here's the reasons why. So that's one way. Another way, price. We always talk about a good, better, best. Maybe you want to differentiate yourself on price. Usually it's not always the best to differentiate yourself on price. However, there are markets where price is king, that you buy solely on price. And we call that commodity. That's usually in a market where all the products are all pretty much the same. There's really no difference between them. from a features, functions, performance standpoint. They're all pretty much the same. So the only way that you really can differentiate yourself is on price. And even though that can be difficult, there is a science to differentiating yourself on price. You don't always have to be the lowest price. Or demographics. For example, Kimberly, what you said, what may differentiate this work that you're doing is you say, we're going after nonprofits. Nonprofits are so the nonprofit people say, oh, you're totally you're for us. You're working solely for us. So that's a key differentiator, as opposed to if there's people out there doing similar services, but they're not saying that they're catered to the nonprofit sector. So that is certainly another way that you can differentiate yourself. Other things to think about is your experience, your expertise. We've been doing this longer than everybody else. We've been in business longer than anybody else. We have we have a fleet of software engineers that are all PhDs. That's one way that you can differentiate yourself. So just about experience and expertise. Customer experience. One of the things that you can do, say that, for example, you have a product that is very similar to your competition. There's really not much differentiation from a feature function standpoint. And you don't want to compete on price. Maybe you don't want to be the lowest price because you can't be the lowest price or else you'll be losing money because of your costs. Well, what's another way that you can compete? You might talk about a customer experience. And a customer experience may be that you sell your product at a fair price, but you offer other services in conjunction with that to enhance the customer experience. And that could be one way you will differentiate yourself. So for example, I take an example like cellular services. They're all pretty much the same for the most part. Some talk about their network, they get a bigger network than others do, get better coverage. But really, one way that they can differentiate themselves is in the types of plans that they offer and also how they resolve problems. You know, these are other intangible factors that can be a huge differentiator that to say, hey, look, I went with Verizon, you know, and I called them up about a problem, they were terrible. Well, I used AT&T and they were great. Huge differentiator. So that's one other area. It's a little tougher to quantify and measure, but it is a differentiator. Whole Foods. Let me just, if you think about Whole Foods, how do you think Whole Foods has differentiated themselves in the grocery market? Any thoughts about that?
They're organic.
Organic, okay.
It's like a really great buzzword for food.
Right, okay, so organic food. Is there anything else that you can think of that's unique to Whole Foods that you don't see at other supermarkets?
The prepared food section is awesome.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Even the ambiance. You walk in, it smells different, the lights are different, the layout of the shelves and products is different.
It's not, I get you go in there, it's not that fluorescent light. With the light, like you said, the lighting is different. It's a little more warm when you walk in there. Natural, right.
Which goes with organic.
Right. And trust me, somebody who got paid a lot of money worked those details out. That is not by chance or by accident. They've done that on purpose. But there's an example in there that Whole Foods is a great example of a grocery store chain that clearly differentiated themselves from the other big box.
Even the people that work there seem to know, like, oh, this meat or this cow is grass-fed with Carolina grass. Like,
Right.
They know all about the product.
So knowledgeable staff. Some of them are, and I think some of them are a little, let's just say, different, kind of hippie. There's a lot of hippies in there, you know, which is cool if you like, you like that. But they did take themselves, did something and made themselves stand out. So you get a completely different experience being in their store and buying their products than you would in an ordinary grocery store. So, okay. All right. Some other differentiating examples. Okay, let's go back to talk about differentiation now. How do you think Amazon differentiates themselves? I love Amazon, so we're gonna keep talking about it because I love it. But who competes with Amazon? Okay, I heard eBay, Walmart. Anybody else do you think competes with Amazon?
Procter and Gamble.
Procter and Gamble?
Yeah, in terms of all the different consumer products that Procter and Gamble sells, Amazon offers, their platform of consumer product goods.
But I would just say probably Procter and Gamble, though, but they don't typically sell over the web, right?
No, I mean they've tried to have some online.
I'm not sure that they do have competition. Because
Well,
for
yeah,
what they do, they're kind of the only ones that do it.
Right.
Like eBay is not as big as Amazon. They sell some things, but it's a very particular thing that you're looking for.
Right.
There's not a market for it per se.
Right. And eBay, I would say, is new and used thing. It's like I think of eBay, although I think it started out as like an online flea market kind of thing that you'd find, different kinds of stuff that you would find at a flea market. Yeah.
So can I agree with her? I think Amazon has differentiated themselves so much that now their competition is scattered right now, like online delivery, right? Or prime time delivery, Target and Best Buy and Walmart are trying to play the catch-up game, right? And they keep on reinventing themselves by getting into the whole food. I mean, it's the other way around. Earlier they were fighting with the brick and mortars, but now they are into their arena.
Right.
And when you change the landscape.
Right. Sure. You're right. I think that it's tough to. Walmart. I guess if there was anybody that is close to competing with them, but not is any of the online retailers. I mean, for books, you've got Barnes and Noble, but I have a feeling, look at what happened to Borders. I'm afraid that's what's going to happen to Barnes and Noble before too long. All of the, also what used to compete with them is you had the record stores. Record stores are a thing of the past.
Again, I don't know if people know this or not. If you look at the name of the Amazon itself, there's the two reasons, right? Amazon River name, right, is the
Right.
longest river,
Right.
Right, they're saying they're selling A to Z.
Yep. I never noticed that.
Right, it's clever. Yeah.
That's right.
That's the thinking behind that. They are offering.
I never knew that. You're absolutely right. A to Z. There you go.
Hey, and you're the marketing guy.
I don't know everything. Contrary to popular belief, I don't know everything. Okay, all right, let's go back. Apple. Well, how does Apple differentiate themselves? And we know who Apple's competitors are, right? You got Samsung, you got Google. All right, if we talk about the iPhone, how do you think Apple has differentiated themselves?
User experience.
Can you expand on that?
Sure. I mean, it's by far probably the easiest device to use for people that are technologically advanced.
Okay.
So it lets them really capture the consumer market very rapidly, and it's also usually the most beautiful device.
Even in its packaging, like when they mail it to you.
Yes.
And everything's fully charged already, you don't have to plug it in the charger.
Yes.
Like those are little things that people think and remember.
Right. Their packaging is the best. I mean, they spend a lot of money. I mean, I know we're paying for it, but they do. Their packaging in the box, like the phone that the iPhone box that it comes in, it's like a sturdy box. Yeah. And you're right. What Apple has decided to do is that there's a huge swath of the market. They are not really tech savvy, and they do not want to have to navigate through complicated protocols or try to figure things out. We're going to make it easy for them. And they've clearly differentiated themselves. Now, I've always been an iPhone user. I don't know if anybody else has got like the Samsung or thing. I mean, how does that, is it the case with the Samsung and, in terms of its use? I mean, have they tried to, give Apple a run for their money?
I mean, considering I also have a Lenovo laptop in front of me, I'm not a Mac user because
Right.
I'm kind of more of a power user, so
Right.
I enjoy being able to mess with my settings.
Yeah, you can tinker with it. Sure.
I like being able to deal with my stuff.
Right. Okay. So, but unfortunately, you're a smaller part of the market. You know, there's not many, compared to the whole market, there's not many people out there that are like tinkerers with the equipment and want to fool with the settings and things like that, so. And then we think about, you know, how do you differentiate yourself? You know, what does it take? What is it unique? And I would say about this, it's something unique about you. And what I would tell you is it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have a quote better product. What you need to, in order to differentiate yourself, you want to create a better experience for your customers. And that may be a combination of the product that, or service you provide and other things that you're doing and what customers feel and experience when they deal with you. I'll give you a very quick example. Chuck and I used to work at a company called, it's Eaton now, but it was Excite Electronics. It's up in North Raleigh. We made uninterruptible power systems. And I worked in a small systems group, and we made these small battery backup systems. So basically power went out, or you got a glitch in the power, this would kick in so your workstation wouldn't go. Back in the days of the workstations, okay? Just shows you how old we're. But one of the issues we had was that our company, and Chuck will probably attest to this, was very much an engineering-driven company. The senior management were engineers. And so we was dealing with the low-end desktop market. They thought having a very techie box was what people wanted. That would create a perfect sine wave of electricity for, and they thought this is what the market wants. Superior product, okay, in terms of technology. Also it cost more. We were dealing with a company called American Power Conversion, APC, they're part of Schneider now. They made a very low-tech box that did not have the technical specifications that ours did, but they spent a lot of time doing the industrial design and the packaging of it so it looked good in an office environment, which we didn't do because we were thinking engineering. And long story short, APC ate our lunch. I mean, they did in the low end rate, they did, because what we couldn't convince senior management was that superior product in this market segment was not what the market wanted. They just wanted something that looked good in their office, and it worked. It had basic functionality. They didn't care that it had a perfect sine wave. That was really of interest to only other power engineers. And we weren't selling just to power engineers. So just an example of that is that sometimes the superior product isn't always going to positively differentiate you. Again, it's measuring what the value is in the customer's mind. That's what you have to do, and that's what we didn't do at Excite. So. Okay, how do we understand what our competition's doing? You know, how do we find out? Say I want to do a competitive analysis. What do I do? How do I go about doing that? And why should I care? You know, there's a lot of reasons why. I think we've answered some of those, but I've had potential clients I've talked to say, why should I care about my competition? My product's the best. Okay. Well, there's a few questions that you want to ask yourself when you're about to do a competitive analysis. One of the things you want to know, how are they viewed in the marketplace? You know, how are they viewed by the customers? If you can find out, you know, if you can find out how their current existing customers feeling about them, that would give you a good indication of where they are and how to position yourself. And also, you may want to ask your own customers that have considered using them. Okay, how do you feel about brand B? Because that's a great way, obviously you're going to get it from their perspective because brand B could possibly solve their problem, you could possibly solve their problem. getting their perspective is probably the best competitive analysis you could get. Can you assess your competition's strengths and weaknesses? Now, all our companies, we all have strengths, things we're really good at, and things that we need to work on, or just are not part of our DNA and we're not good at, maybe we're never going to get good at. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's important to recognize that. And it's definitely important to recognize that in your competition. Doing this is going to improve, because you want to improve your competitive advantage. You want to be able to talk about how you can compensate for weaknesses that your competition has. You can see, things, maybe it's, again, we talk about product features, it could be customer experience, whatever that is, but you have to do that research to understand. You want to understand where your competition is weak, because that's a great place for you to build your competitive advantage message on why customers should buy from you. And again, I'm speaking very broadly here today. I mean, there's complete strategies and a lot of work that goes into understanding, obtaining, researching, and digesting and making use of this information to propel your marketing strategy forward. So I'm speaking very broadly today. Okay, where can you get competitive info? There's a lot of places that you can get it. Your competition's marketing collateral, their website, that would be probably the first place. You can get a lot of information about their products and services, about their company management. They'll typically talk about their philosophy. And if it's a good website, and we're going to talk about it soon, they talk about who they serve and what their maybe they've got their value proposition on it, maybe not. Look at their advertising. That's another area where you can find out more about what they're doing. It'd be interesting to see how they're advertising and where they're advertising, because that will tell you a lot about who they view as their target market. And is it the same target market you're going to? Sales brochures, that's more articles. There's a lot of articles online you want to read about. Press releases, articles that have been written in magazines, customer testimonials. I think I got some of those things. Online databases. There's lots of stuff online that you can find where you'll glean information about your competition and who they're serving. Another great place to find out, industry trade shows. You know, everybody's been to trade shows. Always got to go by the competition's booth. See what they're giving out, see what they're talking about. If you can, cover your name badge so they can see you're not a competitor, and see if you can get a demo from one of their software products and understand what they're doing. And that's always tricky, but that happens all the time. Also from your sales force, what are they hearing and seeing? What are they go into accounts and they say, yeah, brand B's been here one time. They did a big seminar, they did a whole big push in here, pushing their product. Ooh, we need to know about that, because we want to know what they're doing. We want to, as best we can, kind of track what the competition is doing in our target market. Talk to former employees. Former employees of competitors are a great way to understand how the company ticks. What they value is important, what the core values are. So these are just a few. And then your own observations. I mean, from what you've seen. You're a smart person. You can figure, you take some of this information, and you'll get a lot of stuff on the internet. And I just want to tell you right now, contrary to popular belief, not everything on the internet is true. Okay? So take that with a grain of salt. Some things that are on there may not be true. And then this is what I call a SWOT analysis: strengths, opportunities, weaknesses, and threats. And the idea is important for you to do for every competitor that you're going up against is to, this is hard to see right now, but to do one of these, and this is a kind of top level thing of going through and understanding. Like, for example, strengths here: they're personable, they're knowledgeable, they have long-standing client relationships. That could be something, if I'm trying to break into a market where my competition has already got a lot of client relationships, That's something I need to know, because that's gonna be a big challenge for me. Opportunities, where you see where they're taking advantage of opportunities for them, also opportunities for yourself. And then we talked about weaknesses. It's important for you to understand the weaknesses of your competitors, be realistic, and then you got to assess your own weaknesses too. It's important. This is no time to be in denial about things. It's really a time to be honest, because trust me, your competition is looking at you and trying to assess what your weaknesses are, and they're going to look for them and they're going to try to exploit them. So the best thing that you can do is to be aware of them yourself and to try to minimize any damage or any liability associated with that. And then threats. Understand how is your competition, how could they pose a threat to you? Where could they pose a threat to you? Could they take some of your existing customers? Could they steal market share away from you? Are they coming out with a new product that may leapfrog yours, provide more better features, functions, or they just drop price? And how are you going to deal with that? So, okay. All right, I'm places. Any questions about competition? I'm gonna switch gears again. We've got 3 more gears to go here. All right, marketing budget. This is one when I was putting together the topics for this seminar, this was one of the ones that the people I talked to said they really wanted to get an idea about. And I'm going to put some numbers up here. I don't want you to freak out about them, but they are sample numbers, and I put them together really as an illustrative purpose for how you might consider sizing up a budget for marketing expenses. There's a lot of different ways you can put this together. I said the components of your marketing budget, I think, come into 4 main buckets. The first one, I'll just use this, that doesn't work. Okay, your empowering concept. And your empowering concept is your overall thrust of your marketing activities, how you're going to advance your value proposition to the customer. And how are they going to become aware of your value proposition? How are they, this is the kind of the focal point of your marketing activities, okay? So then you've got other ancillary, what I call marketing programs, that you're going to be doing that are going to help things. And I'll get into some examples here in just a minute that flesh this out just a little bit. Then you're going to have to invest in some technology. We are living in a digital age, and the digital medium needs to absolutely, I can't think of any vertical where the digital medium should not be leveraged. It needs to be as much as possible. So you'll have to invest in some technology to help with your marketing initiatives, and then people. So if there's work that needs to be done, either you're doing it or you're having somebody else do it. So it's time versus money. Okay? So the components of the budget, we talk about the empowering concept. It's helping your target audience achieve their mission. That's what I said. It's kind of the focal point of all the marketing activities. And again, we talk about we're going to address and communicate how we can address the challenges that they're facing. All right? That's the focal point of the message. Here's some examples. Now I'm going back to my example of providing marketing strategy services to energy efficiency companies. One of the things that I would do is one of my empowering concepts is to provide webinars and in-person workshops to share essentials, what I'm doing today in the renewable energy space. A way to kind of communicate my value to people so they can see, oh, I see what he knows some marketing strategy. I might be able to use that for my business. In the renewable energy space, and I said in North Carolina, create awareness with my high value target market for complementary businesses in North Carolina that are North Carolina based. So possibly provide a online or offline forum where you can find, if you're someone who says, I really want to buy local and I want to be part of the North Carolina economy, providing the information that can do that, communicating that information. That's helping my customers who want to stay with a local business. So you get the general idea. These are kind of lofty goals, but this is something that you do to help advance your value proposition. Okay. Marketing programs. All right. I just showed, say you have a launch event. And your launch event could be maybe it's introduction of a new product, or maybe you're having a new website that's going to go live, or you're going to have be at an industry trade show, and you are interested in making sure you get the maximum traction of potential clients at the industry trade show. Anyway, whatever it is, it's just you've got a launch event that's out here, okay? And you want to initiate programs that are going to help you have the maximum return on investment at this launch event. So what we do is we establish a set of marketing programs. First, we have the long tail ones. These are ones that are way out. And I'll give an example in just a moment. Way out that are, their duration is long in nature. Then we have our medium tail events, programs, and then we have our short tail events and programs. And all of these work in conjunction to lead up to the launch event. Everybody with me on that? Okay. Okay, showing this is the long-term events here, medium-term and short-term events. The whole idea here, I'll just say some examples of some of the short-term events, and I'll go through some others. Short-term events are like social media. You're going to tweet. You're going to do a LinkedIn article saying, hey, we've got a seminar coming up next week. Hope you can make it, or sign up is here. Tweet about it. You provide it in online forums, or you send emails, okay, about that. In the medium place, as an example, it would be like email marketing. Maybe in advance of a particular event, you're going to send out emails to a targeted distribution list, telling them about the event, telling them how they can sign up about it. Maybe it's a few weeks out, maybe it's a month out. Certainly, if you were going to a trade show and there were certain people that you know were going to be at this trade show and you wanted to have a meeting with them at the show, you would probably, in this timeline, even in going a long time, you would be initiating conversations to make sure that you could get some time with them at the show. Usually, because what I've seen on the industry trade shows you've been to, people say, oh yeah, I'll just see you at the trade show. And usually you never see them. I think it's believed it's important to do upfront, make sure you get on somebody's schedule that we're going to meet at a certain place at a certain time and spend 15, 20 minutes or a half hour together so that we can talk. And that would be a medium range activity. Long range activities are those types of things where we're going to be talking about a product. I mean, Apple does a great job of this when they're going to launch a new iPhone. I mean, they build up the anticipation long in advance of the iPhone being available. And they do it through a variety of different outlets so that they can create really pent-up demand for the product. It's really you just think long-term, medium-term, short-term. And the goal is, and the trick is, to be able to manage those and have a system in place to manage those and to ensure that they're happening on time. And then you've got measurement systems in place, which we're going to talk about very soon, to ensure that what you're doing is having the impact that you want. Okay, components of the budget. Okay, we talk about personnel. We need people. This, I will tell you, is probably the biggest part of your budget. It's going to be people. I got an example of some people that we might need is a content management associate, tech management associate to help, maybe that, I'm not sure about that, a marketing assistant, and then travel budget for events. Just some things to think about. These are, have to account for it, and you will see this is probably the largest part of the budget. And then technology and tools, your website, a CRM tool, customer relationship management tool, and maybe a database of some sort. Depends on how large you are. I mean, I'm talking about a relatively small organization here. So it's just going to depend on the size. But these might be some things that you're going to have to invest in as part of your marketing initiatives. I'd like to talk a couple of pointers about website before we move on. I believe, and you'll hear different theories about what's the purpose of a website. I believe it has to answer three fundamental questions. And the first one is, what is your company known for? Okay? And these are not necessarily in this order, but it's really, what are you known for in the marketplace? What do you do well? What differentiates you? Okay? That needs to be, that question, when someone comes to your website, they need to be able to get an answer to that question. The second question that they need to get an answer to is, who does your company serve? Okay? You'd be surprised how many websites I go to, and I have no idea who they serve, or who their target audience, who their target market is. And then finally, and thirdly, why should prospective customers choose your company, your product over the competition? Again, that's that competitive advantage and that differentiator. And it's important that in your website that has to answer these three questions. And I would say that it needs to be on your landing page. It needs to be, as we talk about, as I said, it's going to be on the landing page, and a crisp value proposition statement in the top fold, so that when somebody comes to your site, they know exactly, first off, they can determine, oh, okay, you're speaking to me. I don't have to scroll through pages to find whether you have something of value to me. Because you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave the site. So if I can't find, it's like a resume. How many of us have looked at a stack of resumes when we're interviewing people, and you want to have right at the top of the resume, you want to know basically what the value proposition of this person is. And you don't want to have to spend a bunch of time trying to find out if there's any applicable information to your business. Typically, if you can't find it, on to the next resume. It's the same thing with websites. And again, I can't tell you, as you say, how many websites have you been to where you go through like a couple of pages, and I was like, I have no idea what they do, I don't know who they serve, and I don't know why I should do business with them. Really, it's a beautiful site, looks good, great videos, beautiful animation, have no idea what they do. And they probably spend a fortune on it too. And it's important, it's optimized, again, it's about the customer. Fulfill their informational needs. Okay? Any questions about that? Just a little bit of my philosophy about websites, because I've seen so many bad ones. Okay, hard to see this, but I put together the marketing budget. We talked about the empowering concept here, and the personnel, the community site, and the technology, and the marketing programs here. These are the that we talk about. Now, you don't have to pay attention to these numbers. I made up a lot of these numbers, but you will see that a large part of the budget, this is for an annual, and this is for a pilot for about 3 months. One of the things that I highly recommend is that, except for your website and for some other types of things, where I talk about the website and your CRM program, there's certain technology that you're going to have to make the investment regardless of how large your marketing initiatives are, or regardless of how large you are. You have to make that investment. So it doesn't make sense to go through a pilot. But what I would do is, on some of these initiatives, go to a pilot program, start small, and because it's easier to fix. If something's not going the way you want it to, and you're measuring and you're seeing that you know, you're not achieving the key performance indicators that you want, you can make changes to it, and you haven't spent a lot of money. So, whatever your budget is, I would highly recommend that you start with a pilot. And typically, it's 3 months. But as we see here, the largest portion of the budget is personnel, which is not surprising. I mean, some of these other things that I've talked about, I've guesstimated what they would be. But there's a reason why I put these numbers together, because I want to illustrate another point. But this gives you an idea. When you get the thing, you'll get an idea of things that you need to be thinking about as you're putting together the money you're going to need to invest in this marketing activity. Or at least if you don't have the money, at least you know the things that you're going to be faced up with. So it's important to understand that. Any questions on that? Clear? Okay. All right. I'm going to do the next one is measuring for success. All right. We want to talk about how, you know, if we're going to invest all this time and energy in our marketing initiatives, how are we going to measure that what we're doing is moving us to achieving our business goals? So there's some questions that we should ask as we're trying to put together a measurement system. What should be the goals of my marketing activities? And when I say about that, I mean that's going to be a qualitative and a quantitative goal. What's a good outcome? We talked about maybe it's leads, maybe it's more visits to my website. Well, you know, there's lots of ways to measure. I'll give you some examples here. But there's a lot of ways to measure certain things. There's ways to measure. We talk about impressions on a website. That's typically to measure awareness. These people, eyeballs, are seeing your content. Okay. What should I measure to determine if I'm moving toward my goals? And what KPIs, key performance indicators, should I track to gauge my progress? These are all great questions that need to have the thought out and answers provided. Well, we talk about, everybody talks about return on investment nowadays, and it's no different from marketing. Back in the old days, marketing return on investment was really just, okay, I got new customers. But you want to be able to put it in a context that makes sense from a quantitative standpoint. So here's one way we could measure marketing investment. So marketing ROI equals the gross profit that you have, the gross profit that you've realized by getting new customers as a result of your marketing efforts, okay? And you subtract the marketing investment and divide it by the marketing investment, okay? A very simple, top-level way of measuring marketing ROI. Okay? Everybody good with that? Make sense? So let's do an example. You recall from my energy companies that I'm going after, and I'm supplying marketing services to them, I said that the average revenue that I believe one customer would provide me, one new customer would provide me annually, was about $9,000, average. Okay? All right, well, I usually, so what I've done is, through my marketing, all my marketing activities right now, I'm assuming out of those, remember it was 3,500 customers that I had, okay? I'm assuming as a result of my marketing efforts, I'm going to get 2% to get to my landing page, okay? Now you can argue whether that's a high or low, but it's usually going to be pretty low, okay, I get that. And if we go through all of these, and then 2% to the landing page, of the 2% that come, if I've done a good job, 75% of them will register and with my website, and they may provide their contact information. 75% will provide link to content. They'll get the content, and they'll download it, and they'll interact with the content. And then of those, the rest, 60% of those people I'm saying 21 people will visit my website and go through and check out everything about me. Okay? Again, the point of this is to show that as you do your marketing efforts, and again, this is going down the marketing funnel, you're going to lose people along the way, and you lose them pretty fast. But as a result of my efforts, I am going to get out of that 3,500, I'm going to get 17 people that'll purchase my my marketing services. Okay? Which, okay, that's a lot smaller than 3,500. But okay, let's see how that plays out here. So, the MRI is 154,000. Then I've spent 73,000 here. And I divide by 73, 11.5%, which I think is pretty good. So, okay, and we're talking about KPIs, key performance indicators. We talked about the marketing funnel, and as we remember, we're going to be providing value to move customers through the funnel and to interact. Of course, as we saw it in the example we had in the previous slide, it gets thinner, and we started out with 3,500 maybe being aware, or not even that. I mean, the 2% are aware, and it gets down to 17 that we're going to actually purchase the services. So we've provided value along the way. These are the marketing initiatives that you do to move the customers through the funnel. But what you need to do is you're providing value. What you want to do is you need KPIs everywhere along this way, key performance indicators, to measure the effectiveness of your marketing initiatives at every step of these levels. To ensure that you want to make sure that my awareness numbers where I need to be. And that's not just online. That may be also through face-to-face conversations, meetings, that kind of thing. I mean, however you want to do it. But the point is, this needs to be measured. Same with the engagement, discovery, purchase, and retention. And you need to set up key performance indicators for each one of those and manage each one of those separately, as well as an aggregate, to ensure that all of this value that you're providing here to the customer is leading to a purchase and becoming a customer. Does that make sense? I mean, again, depending on the business and spending the time, these KPIs, some of them are intuitive, others are very specific to a particular business. And typically what we do is we sit down with the customer and we work them out together to make sure, okay, number one, can we measure it? And can we measure it efficiently? And number two, once we've got that measurement, what is the right goal? What's the right number to shoot for? And is it realistic? Is it indicative of the market? Because we don't want to have something that's too lax, but then we don't want to set up ourselves for failure either by putting some unrealistically high goal or unrealistically high number and shoot for it. So there's just to say that there's a lot of work that needs to go into these, both your marketing initiatives, but then measuring the effectiveness. So I want to talk a little bit about some examples of KPIs. We got awareness and engagement, discovery, purchase, and retention. I'm going to talk about some awareness and engagement KPIs. And these are typical. They're not business specific, but they're just giving examples of some things that we might measure. And our goal here is to share our empowering concept with our target audience. Let them know how we want to. It's typically it's an initial contact with them. We want to let them know how we can help them achieve their goals. Okay? All right, we can look at website traffic. One way is, are they visiting our website? Customers visiting our website. What also has to happen here is we want to know, number of visits, unique visits or repeat visits. If we've got a lot of repeat visitors, that's someone who is engaging with our content typically, and they're moving down the funnel because they're much more interested. But it's important to understand how many unique and repeat visitors we have to the site. Where'd they come from? How did they get to our site? that can tell us a lot about who they are and what their intentions are and the probability that they're going to become a customer. Come from paid search. If it came from paid search, say paid versus organic. Organic search means they were looking for you. Paid search, not as much, okay? Maybe it came from an email campaign, or maybe from links that you have on other sites. All right, and I'm talking about websites in the digital medium right now. Okay, what pages did they visit? That can tell us how well they're engaging with our content. Did they just come to our landing page and leave, or did they go to different other sites? And Mark, I'll just say that this is part of the thing with Google Analytics. This is where Google Analytics and other analytics programs can provide us this information so that we can see, we can take that data and analyze it and see how it's stacking up against our KPIs to see if we're meeting them. So that's where the Google Analytics comes in.
Yeah, and that's free too. So.
Yeah, right. So, and in Google Analytics, there's, all these things can be set up as goals so that you can conveniently measure these things. Time on page. How long time do they spend on a page? I mean, that's another one. Also, have they shared, did any visitors share any of your content? That's always a great indication that someone's interacting with our brand and perceiving us value. Obviously, they perceive it enough that they're sharing it with others. They're trying to curate it for other people they care about. So that's a huge indicator that they're interested in our brand and could be a potential customer. And then the bounce rate. Everybody know what bounce rate is? So, for those of you that don't know, bounce rate is if somebody comes to your site and they immediately leave. And typically, that's a case of that's either they were there by accident, or they went to your site and whatever you were presenting there was not of interest to them. So they immediately left. If you have a website that's got a very high bounce rate, you've got a problem with your website. So that means that the content that you have there is not relevant to what the people that are coming to your website are looking. They're not finding answers to the questions that they're looking for. So that's another key thing to look at. A couple more engagement and KPI and awareness and engagement KPIs. Talk about creating an ongoing relationship and the ability to create an ongoing relationship and to nurture that relationship. So when both on your website and maybe in emails or any of your communications, you have what we call a call to action, where we want, as a result of a prospective client interacting with our content, reading our emails, looking at our website, we want them to do something. Maybe we want them on our website, we want them to download an ebook or a white paper. Okay? There's something there of value, and we can measure that they downloaded this piece of content. Maybe it's an exchange for their email information, their contact information. Okay? Maybe they watched a video. Okay? Someone spends time on your website and they're watching a video. That's a good indication that there's interest in the content. And you can find out through Google Analytics, you can find out how long somebody watched the video. Okay? If you're lucky enough and you've got a good thing, they'll provide their name and email address. That's golden. If they do, that means that basically what they've done is they have given you permission to contact them or to stay in touch with them. So that always is a huge KPI if we want, in terms of moving ourselves down the marketing funnel, is to be able to have the contact information of our prospective customers. Maybe you have a blog. They visit your blog site. Okay, that shows that they get interest in some of the things that you've been talking about. The things you're talking about are resonating with the things that they care about. And there's ways there's numerous tools online that you can measure how people are interacting with your blog posts. Social media followers. Everybody talks about, I heard about that, oh, I got a zillion followers on Twitter and Facebook. Okay. I mean, not necessarily that means a whole lot. It can. But at least, if you've got some, I would say in terms of followers on social media, sometimes they're meaningful, a lot of times they're not. But if you have more followers, that's better than having less followers. Industry trade shows. I talked a little bit about industry trade shows. It's about cultivating one-on-one meetings with customer decision makers and having those meetings. I just tell you, I don't know how many times I've seen companies who have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on a trade show booth and sending people to the trade show and the whole 9 yards, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I ask, okay, you've got all the cards of some of the people that you've met there, and what have you done with them? Oh, they're right here in my desk drawer. Haven't done anything with them. It's like you spent all that money and you haven't really done anything with the leads. I mean, these are big companies that have done this too. And it's like, yeah, well, it's just, we got back to the office, it just wasn't a priority. Because, you got back to the office, fired us. That's your future business there. And you've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to get those leads. And you need to be doing something with them. And you need to have a keep in touch strategy. I talk about that with your clients as you're moving, your potential clients, as you're moving them down the marketing funnel. That keep in touch strategy is predicated and it's got its foundation on providing value. If you remember, if we go back here, just go back, the marketing funnel, that you're providing value every step of the way. When you're providing value, that's always a way, that is always a great opportunity for you to engage with the customer and speak to them or reach out to them and have a conversation with them. And what you're doing, what's implicit in that, is that Mr. Prospective Customer, I want to have a conversation with you, and in exchange for your time and attention, I'm going to provide you some value of something, whatever it may be. So it's an equitable transaction. So it's important that you have a keep in touch strategy, and what I believe you need to do is the multiple touches as you go down to bringing the customer down the marketing funnel. You need to have your pieces of value, whatever they are, planned out. I mean, some of it will be tailored to the particular customer, but you want to have certain things that you're going to provide along the way to move them through the funnel. And it's important to have that stuff thought out. What is it going to look like? What are we doing? Maybe it's for example, it's a demo, or it's a white paper, or maybe it's a free consultation, or it's something. But you're giving something away of value as a indication of that you're trying to pursue this customer's business. Okay? Discovery, purchase, and retention KPIs. And here, the goals of these and what we're measuring is how well we communicate our products and services to enable our target audience. So this is a point where we can talk a little bit about ourselves and say, okay, Mr. Customer, first we talked about you and your issue, your pain, and how we're going to help you address your pain. We can do that, and now we'd like to talk a little bit about how we're going to help you with your pain. And so that we're turning the conversation just a little bit to be a little bit more about our company and our products. And that's part of the content strategy that we need to have. Our content over time, from the time that we initially engage with a prospect till they become a customer, that content has to change over time. As I mentioned, at the beginning of the relationship, the content has to be much more customer focused. Probably no mention of what your products do, okay, or very little. And as time goes on, the content can integrate more about what your products can do, your products and services can do. Seminars and webinars are a great way to communicate the value that you have, so that people can see it in a setting where they're not committed, they're not obligated to become a customer, but they can see what your value is. So that's one way. Case studies. Case studies are worth their weight in gold. Case studies are stories about how you have delivered value to other customers, okay, that potential customers can read about. And typically, good case studies are quantitative in nature, where you articulate in using actual numbers how you delivered value to a particular client. It helps prospective clients not feel like they're a guinea pig, or that, and they can see that you are, you've got the experience, you've got the capability, and you know what you're doing. So, very important. Customer references and testimonials, they're also worth their weight in gold. You can get a customer to say nice things about you publicly. There's no better endorsement than that. So that's part of the thing, and this is kind of an ancillary thing. You spend a lot of time with your marketing initiatives to get business. Make sure you've got the processes in place to deliver on your promises. Because if you get a customer all excited about something that you're a product or a service, and then you can't deliver it, it's just bad. Because then what will happen is that you basically set up for a lot of disappointment, and you've left a bad taste in a lot of customers' mouths. So the point is that once you have created this wonderful demand for your products and services, make sure you've got the processes in place to deliver over and above, just exceed customer expectations when you're delivering on your promises. Product information, special offers. Maybe you'll offer, we talk about the special offers or something that can help move the customer through the marketing funnel. Customer surveys. Customer surveys are a great way to get data about how your customers feel about a specific aspect of dealing with your company. You want to make sure the surveys are not too lengthy, or else they won't fill them out. And you want to make sure when you're putting together the survey that each question that you ask is distinctly different from another question. I've seen too many surveys. They are question after question after question, and a lot of the questions are essentially asking the same thing. They just ask it a little bit differently. Now, sometimes they're trying to get fine shades of meaning, but I think it's important for a really well-defined survey that each question that you ask is distinctly different and looks for a different piece of information. And that's mainly so that you keep credibility with the customer, so they don't feel like you're wasting their time, and that each question is asking for some new meaningful information. Loyalty programs. The loyalty programs, they're pretty much in every business now. Businesses can find out, you go to Harris Teeter with your loyalty card, they know exactly what you bought, when you bought it, they know your buying habits, and they can use that information to help create special offers for you. So there's a reason why these companies have these loyalty programs. And the whole idea is through these KPIs, we want to be able to, when we've got we get the money at the end here, and we've got people that have become customers. In order to get more customers, we want to make sure we know what mix of activities led to that conversion. And it's important for us to understand. So that's why it's important for us to measure the effect and the impact of our marketing activities, because we want to be able to attribute these. If I do these certain things, they have a very high probability that's going to result in a conversion. So that's when you hear conversion attribution, and a lot of companies are trying to do that to determine. They say, well, we do all these marketing activities, but we're not sure how we got the customer, but that's really important, and that's where it's important to dig deep and to really build a model to understand how all of these things interact. And that's usually a database model. So. All right, we're on the final one. I know it's been a long journey here. I wanted to talk a little bit about the tools of the digital marketing trade. And some of these are free tools that you can use to help with your marketing activities. First, to talk about a little bit about digital marketing, there's a paradigm shift. Traditional paradigm, it was really product, place, price, promotion. That was the 4 P's of marketing that we've known for a long, long time. These were really the 4 cornerstones of any marketing strategy. And what we've gone to now is to a digital paradigm with social media marketing tools. And these are, in the presentation, these will have links so that you can go to. Board Reader, you want to find what your target audience is online. You want to find out, say for example, energy companies. You go to Board Reader and type in like renewable energy, and you will see, it'll go through and tell you about different periodicals and different people that are talking about and what they're talking about online. You can go search. It's sort of like a Google search, but it's a little bit more intelligent than a Google search. But what it does help you do is find out where, and we talked about this, where is our target audience? How do we find them and how do they get their information? Because that's what we want to do. Hashtagify me. What are the best hashtags to follow? This is pretty cool when you bring it up. It does a little bit of a spider analysis and tells you what the main hashtags are and some of the ancillary hashtags. And it's I would highly encourage you to get a chance, if you get a chance, to take a look at that. But it really helps with the hashtags. Social Mention is a social media monitoring tool. Again, very similar to Board Reader. Again, it's about finding where your influencers are online. Who are the key influencers? Because you may want to get on their radar and have them possibly promote your content. Cloud, this is an interesting one. You can go there and based on your email address and some few other parameters, you can determine what your own online impact is. And I started out as a very low, and then I've been a social media madman about before, so it's mine has grown over time, which I'm happy about. So, okay, a couple more outbound marketing tools. How do I reach my target audience? We know about MailChimp, email marketing. There's iContact. There's a few others. There's a free version of that you can use to create your own emails if you wanted to do a targeted distribution list. They have a lot of templates that you can use that make the emails look really good. And there again, be careful when you're doing an email distribution list. Again, it's about, you got to think, why should someone want to open this email and read it? What's in it for them? I mean, that is just the underlying principle there. So, Hootsuite, probably most of you have said it. Social media monitoring is a way you can plan all of your social media posts. I found it to be very useful. Blogger is a blogging site on Google that you can use. It gives you great templates for creating blogs and for tagging them and for getting people to them. There's a place where you can put your profile in. Very professional looking. I was really pleased with that. Of course, there's LinkedIn. Most of you are familiar with LinkedIn. I think that's a great way to, if you are in your target market, to get on LinkedIn and find the groups that where your company is helping them and participate in the discussions. Be a part of it. Be an active, take an active role. It's very important. People like that. They see, again, it gives you a chance to demonstrate your expertise and how you're genuinely interested in helping your target market. So, Facebook and Twitter. So, I mean, those are just a few. And that's it. We've reached the end. Can I thank you for your attention. Can I answer any questions that anybody has? We've covered a lot today.